Hey, you watch 100 Mile Drive, and in this video I want to compare 2022 Rav4 Hybrid that has a combined 219 horsepower brand new car against 2023 Lexus NX 350h that has a combined 241 horsepower. And I want to tell you, how does this Rav4 feel to drive against the Lexus NX 350h, and is it worth spending $10,000 more for the Lexus? If you watch 100 Mile Drive for the first time, well, this is the channel where I say before you buy a car, sign that contract, you need to drive it for at least 50 to 100 miles on city streets, highway and canyon roads to be able to answer the biggest question I'm answering on this channel is how does it feel to drive? So if you find a value in this video comparison that I'm doing today between the Rav4 and the Lexus, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and make sure you watch the video till the end, as I'm gonna give a very valuable conclusion on both of these cars. First, let's quickly look at the exterior of Rav4 against the Lexus NX 350h, and I'm kind of liking it now. This the Rav4 Hybrid. Initially I didn't like it because they kind of changed the design to this adventurous looking crossover. By the way, this is an XLE trim that comes with 18-inch wheels and a sunroof. It's I highly recommend this trim because it looks much nicer. Now, this car would be more controversial. Like, some people will like this Rav4, some people, like my wife, she didn't like it initially. She's like, oh, it looks kind of, you know, like a man's kind of car. But when she actually spent time with it, when we drove it for the trip, she started liking it. But Lexus, on the other hand, will be more attractive for most buyers, as it has, you know, more attractive, more premium look. That's what I think. Now let's quickly look at the door. How does the door sound? And the door feels heavy, feels very solid. And the Rav4, of course, has this, you know, the latches. When you pull the door, versus the Lexus, they put the buttons there now that you have to press the button. So the door sound check passed. Let's get in inside. Now on the inside, I just want to quickly address the quality materials of the Rav4 Hybrid. And this is what, when you're looking at the car now, and it doesn't feel bad. If you see my first video that I did on the Subaru Crosstrek 2023, I said it was awful and I said Toyota was a better quality. I'm not fairly impressed with the materials. They look okay, but when you start touching things, you can see they're easily, like, they move. And it's true, like, these panels is a soft touch, and I really like them. You can see this rugged, you know, design, Toyota's language for these bigger knobs. Everything looks nice, to be honest with you. We drove this car for like more than 700 miles. I like the steering wheel, feels solid. Now these upper plastic panels, they kind of feel a little bit cheap, I would say, because if you can see here, there's a little scratch here. You can barely see it, but what I can say, this is not scratch resistant, at least not as much as I would like it to. So obviously the Lexus has a much better quality materials, much more premium, much more upscale. They have better like a two-tone interior styles that definitely makes the Lexus much more appealing versus this Rav4. And another quickly thing I wanted to address, which is a downer on this Toyota. I mean, two things. There's a screen. This screen to me looks kind of old. I mean, this is a 2022 model, and I wish it had a better screen. Obviously Lexus definitely wins here, as they have a redesign for 2023 and they have a much better screen. And the other downer here in this car is the sound system. It just sounds terrible. All the sound comes from like a front. You have to like balance it out, send some sound to the rear to make it sound a little better. So definitely the Lexus has a much better audio sound. Now let's go ahead and drive it. All right, driving 2022 Rav4 Hybrid in the city, and then I'm gonna drive it a little bit on the highway. Let's go. So I'm gonna put it first in the sport mode. Just turn the dial to the right and we'll see how does it drive compared to the 2023 Lexus NX 350h. Let's go. It has pretty good pull, I will tell you that. Of course, the Lexus NX 350h has more horsepower. It has like a 22 or something more horsepower than the Rav4 Hybrid, and the Lexus comes with a bigger electric motor and the battery, yet they feel almost the same, to be honest with you. Now the Lexus has a firmer suspension that I'm going to talk about, but when you just literally floor this car, it feels, I would say, about the same. So I'm gonna do it one more time. And Car and Driver magazine reviewed both of these cars, and then they said this one was 7.4 seconds 0 to 60 versus 7.2 for the Lexus. Here we go, flooring again. Of course, we hear the CVT transmission, and overall it's not bad. Like I said, the Lexus does feel slightly faster and a little bit louder, but nevertheless, these two cars not meant for 0 to 60 performance, yet they're not slow. Like I used to have my 2011 Toyota Camry Hybrid. That was like a first Camry Hybrid at the time. That was like a 9.2 seconds 0 to 60, and that did feel slow. Now this feels certainly like it has that, you know, that punch power to get you going. Now really quickly, let me address the seats. The seats in the Rav4 Hybrid are firmer than in the Lexus. Now they're firmer seats, yet they're very comfortable. They're firmer, but they're supportive. You have a really good posture here. Like I said, they're not plush, but they're comfortable. Like we drove for more than 700 miles and we felt really good. Like I didn't have any you know, backache or any kind of pain anywhere, so it felt pretty good. So these seats definitely work for long journeys. Now in Lexus NX, seats feel slightly more premium, more plush. The seats provide also more comfort in Lexus. So if you're someone who wants those, you know, plush seats, definitely Lexus offers a better option, and that's probably part of the reason why it's more expensive. But again, not to put Toyota down, because seats here are comfortable as well. All right, next let's talk about steering. The steering on Rav4 Hybrid versus the Lexus NX 350h. Now in Toyota, the steering set up more for like city or cruising, or I would say relaxed mode. It's still weighted, it's still nicely weighted. In fact, much better than my Camrys. If you guys don't know, I had 3 Camrys. I literally drove Toyota Camry for almost 10 years. So I had a lot of experience with Camrys. And then 2 of the Camrys that I had, the 2004 4-cylinder, then 2007 6-cylinder, had very weird, like loose steering. In 2011 Camry Hybrid had a much better steering. Now here I could tell they made a lot of improvement in steering, even though it's slightly on the lighter side, but it's much nicer. It's weighted, it doesn't feel loose, it responds pretty well to what you do. By no means this car is sporty or anything like that, but for the way it does it and how it does it, it feels pretty well. Now in Lexus NX 350h, steering is one of those things that I really enjoyed. Why did I enjoy it? Because it's more direct. In Lexus, steering is much faster and more direct. So Lexus will be a much better car to drive in the city. It's much quicker in terms of like steering the car through the corners, through you know, streets, parking lots, like running around your errands. It's also a little quicker. So driving a Lexus NX 350h will be much easier in the city. The steering in Lexus NX is nicer than what I was expecting, in a sense that it's not loose, it's not heavy, it's balanced. It's very well balanced. It's also very responsive, but it flows very nicely with how the suspension dialed in this car versus the Lexus NX 350h. And then I'll talk a little more about that. Now, so then let's talk next thing about suspension. And suspension in both of these cars is also slightly different. To be honest with you, when we first rented NX 350h, I was expecting suspension to be something like this, but maybe a little bit more premium. But instead, in Lexus NX 350h, suspension feels a little firmer. It has a smooth feel, but then it picks up all these small bumps, and then like you don't expect that from Lexus. Like you feel like it should be more like a flowing, you know, like that airy. Like that's the reason people buy a Lexus. But I think they went for maybe younger crowd with that crossover, so they made it a little firmer, they made it a little more responsive how the steering is. Whereas this Toyota Rav4 Hybrid has a very, very smooth, kind of, I would even say soft suspension. But again, it's not loose, it's not wobbly. The platform of this car is very stable. I don't see any like discrepancies, like major flaws where it would make me feel unsafe driving this car versus you know, some of the earlier products. So this car suspension feels very soft. It's very comfortable in the long drives. Driving in the city feels also comfortable, like, you know, you're just cruising along. Now this car doesn't feel very responsive and fast when you have to do something quick, you know, when you want to like drive. Of course you can drive it fast, nobody says no, but compared to Lexus, this car is more mellow. The Rav4 Hybrid is more like a calm, more like a, you know, the car you want to kind of chill in, you want to relax. And it's you know, a nice cabin to be in. I like how spacious it is. I like how comfortable it is. And if you spend more time with the Rav4 Hybrid, especially in the city, highway, this car is definitely not for canyon roads. That's why I'm not even taking it there. Just want to give you the comparison. And now I want to quickly drive it on these bumpy roads just to give you more feedback on how the suspension feels. Alright, now I'm putting the car in eco mode, and then I'm just gonna cruise along and then see how well it does it on like a bumpy road. Here I'm in Tampa Avenue, like a beat up road, and to be honest with you, I am quite impressed with this Rav4 Hybrid. As like I said, it's a very calm cruiser. Oh, there's a lot more potholes from the rain, so I can hit those, and then I can see how the suspension works, how the shocks do all the job. I'm as a driver, I don't feel a lot of annoying feedback. My brain is in the right place, like I don't feel that rattling. So definitely this car like is a good car for families. Honestly, for anyone who just enjoys a very calm driving experience, very like a flowy, like you're not a guy who just wants to like, you know, drive aggressively. So this Rav4 Hybrid is very good in that. And like I mentioned in the case of the Lexus NX 350h, while it has a smooth flowy feel, but the biggest issue I found that the suspension is dialed in a way that it's more firmer, and it even kind of annoys you a little bit, because honestly I expected from Lexus something a bit more premium, something a bit more upscale, maybe a little bit more sophisticated, you know, something like European rivals do, like Audi Q5, BMW X3. I'll bring all these cars on this channel, so make sure to subscribe that. I mean, this car does have a flowing feel, but suspension is rather busy. It kind of picks up all these little imperfections on the road. I mean, all the moves are fine. It doesn't do anything crazy abnormal, but I was hoping, Lexus being Lexus, that it feels more premium, it feels more bump observant, like shocks will do a more refined job. So I didn't expect Lexus NX 350h to be a bit more bumpy, a bit more you know, like firmer the way it is. What I did enjoy, like I mentioned, was the steering rack in the Lexus NX 350h. So now I'm gonna just quickly go and jump in some of these local, you know, in the neighborhood local streets, and just see how easy it is to drive the, you know, Rav4 Hybrid. And like I said, one thing, like if you start driving this car more aggressive, you'll see like it'll do a lot of side to side kind of movements, like the suspension will bounce a little more. So no, this is not a car that you want to throw around in the corners. This is not a car you want to drive aggressively. In fact, you kind of look stupid if you do that. This is the car you just want to like take your time, like this car in front of me is taking its time, so you kind of want to be patient. Whereas Lexus, I drove the same streets, and then Lexus allows you to be more maneuverable, quicker, lighter. Now the other very important thing I want to talk about Rav4 Hybrid, I want to say Camry for some reason, versus the Lexus NX 350h, and that is brakes. Okay, brakes, they feel about the same. Both have, you know, fairly strong brakes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I can stop, no problems. But the biggest difference is that in NX 350h, I mentioned my biggest complaint was that when you drive in stop and go traffic, especially city traffic, you sit there and you feel this motion of the car doing this, you know, even though it has a firmer suspension. But I don't know what it is, how they set up the brakes. It feels annoying. It feels very annoying, and I hope it's only in their hybrid setup. It's not in the you know, in the gas powered version, because in this Toyota, and I was very curious to see that everything feels okay. This has a softer suspension, you know, this car, you know, more bouncy, I would say, you know, on the bigger bumps. But yet when I stop and go, I don't have that. I don't feel like my body, you know, moves up and down. I don't, like my passengers, my wife, we all noticed that. We both noticed that in Lexus somehow you feel that. It's either brakes or the chassis setup, most likely something to do with the chassis, that gives you that weird feedback that doesn't make you feel good. And then the people who are dizzy may notice that, especially if your passenger's on the phone while you're driving, they might feel that lightheadedness. And this Rav4 Hybrid doesn't have that. Now let me go ahead and jump in on the highway and kind of give my few points on how does it drive on a highway. Alright, now I'm merging the highway. I'm putting this car in a sport mode just to give it more push, and let's see how it does it. It does it alright. Of course, it's a 4-cylinder hybrid, so don't expect anything crazy. So what are the things I want to quickly talk about on driving it on the highway? The first thing is the sound insulation. I didn't bring my meter with me because it's not a full dynamic drive. I'm just doing a quick comparison. But what I do want to point out that the Lexus has slightly better sound insulation in terms of like hearing other cars. But I did notice in Lexus you hear a lot more noise from the tires, where here I don't hear much noise from tires, but I do hear noise from outside, you know, the window, like the noise from all this traffic, the cars and all that. It's kind of weird. But again, both of them are kind of average. It's not a downer. Both of them are fine. They're not like really good, but they're not bad. They're average. So sound insulation is average. And the other thing I wanted to point out that this car is a cruiser, and I did already mention that. So we drove to Mammoth Lakes. There was a lot of snow. We actually enjoyed driving this car in the snow. It feels really, really good in snow. And I'll tell you why. Because it's not torquey, because it's a hybrid, and it's of course all-wheel drive. It does everything smoothly. It does everything where it doesn't send too much peak power. It just does everything kind of slowly, I would say, smoothly. So it's able to go, like, climb the hills just fine. It doesn't struggle. It didn't slip at all. I was surprised. We drove it on ice. There was a lot of snow this year in Mammoth Lakes, and it drove it without chains, literally without chains. It was fine, absolutely no problem. In fact, I was quite surprised that this car is capable of driving in snow like this. So let me quickly try to overtake some cars, and I'm still in sports mode, and of course it's capable. You hear a lot of noise. This car is not to be meant, you know, driven fast. This is a good cruiser. Like, if you go above, you know, 80 miles on a highway, you'll hear a lot more wind noise, and then it'll do the job. But you can realize these cars are not meant for speed, including Lexus as well. Even though Lexus has a little bit better stability because of its firmer suspension, but yet they both are not meant for fast driving. This is a comfortable cruiser for long journeys or your city highways, and it does this job really, really well. Now, let me go ahead and summarize this and tell you what I think about both of these cars and which one would I buy myself. Alright, so here's my final conclusion on 2022 Rav4 Hybrid versus 2023 Lexus NX 350h. Now, if you're someone who wants luxury, who wants to feel that upscale, because you know all these luxury gadgets, all these luxury things that we buy, they make us feel more expensive, they make us feel special. And if this is someone like you, then obviously Lexus NX 350h will be an obvious choice because it has a much better materials on an interior, like the better seats, the whole dashboard looks nicer, the newer screen. So when you sit in a Lexus, you do feel more premium sound as well. So if this is something you value, if this is important to you, then that's the right car for you, and it's worth paying $10,000 over compared to this 2022 Rav4 Hybrid. Now, if you're someone who doesn't care too much about luxury, but you want a nice, safe, comfortable car that you can take on the long journeys like we went to Mammoth Lakes, then the Rav4 will do a great job. This is a car I truly enjoyed. I didn't expect it. I in fact didn't think I'll review this car, but since we rented it, I decided to do this comparison and then give you my thoughts on what I think about this Rav4 Hybrid. Now, is Lexus worth 10K? Yes, absolutely, if luxury is your thing. But now here's the important thing. Which car I think is better in all, like in overall value? Both of them are Toyota products, both of them have high resale value, but which car I think is the better all around? And my answer is 2022 Rav4 Hybrid is a better car all around, because the expectations that you have from this car are exceeded. It's a comfortable car, has nicer seats, it has a nice suspension, it has pretty good pickup for what it is. A very roomy car, it's a very comfortable for the journeys. The steering, suspension, everything kind of flows very well together. Whereas the Lexus, like I said in my video, and make sure you watch that, has a nice interior, like you feel upscale, luxury, but the downer on that car is the suspension. I mentioned that it doesn't feel as premium, and the pickup. I expected Lexus to do something more premium in terms of how it delivers that stronger electric engine. So I hope you found some value in this review. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you soon.